I cheated and lost my husband's trust. Completely. I'm not writing this looking for sympathy. I know I don't deserve it. I just need to speak my truth and maybe hear from others who have lived through something similar. I am a 32-year-old woman who did the unthinkable. I betrayed my husband, Jim, a man who had never been anything but loving, supportive, and faithful to me. I shattered a beautiful 13-year marriage and devastated not only him but also our 2 children, my parents, and even myself. My past mistake has rippled out, causing pain far beyond what I can ever repair, but I live each day trying to. Let me be transparent. About 19 months ago, I was caught having an affair with a married neighbor. Let's call him Steve for confidentiality's sake. He was 27 at the time. I was 30. My husband Jim is 39. Steve had a wife, Marcia, and 3 young kids. The affair lasted just under 5 months and consisted of only 4 physical encounters, but emotional damage like this isn't measured by numbers. Even if it had only been one time, the betrayal would still have destroyed my husband's trust. It would still have blown a hole through the foundation of our marriage. What's hardest to explain is why I did it, because we weren't having problems. There were no fights, no distance, no unmet needs. I loved Jim deeply and still do. He fulfilled me in every way. Emotionally, mentally, physically. He is a wonderful father to our 2 boys, who are now 9 and 11, and he's the kind of man people admire. Honest, hardworking, generous. So why Steve? That question has haunted me every day since I was found out. The truth is ugly and difficult to face. My attraction to Steve stemmed from something irrational, something primal. It reminded me of my first intense romantic experience when I was 18. An overwhelming chemistry-fueled connection with a man named Charles. That first relationship was intoxicating and impulsive. We were incompatible in every meaningful way, but the passion blinded me. I ended that relationship after a year when the fantasy wore off, but the memory, the feeling, stayed buried somewhere in me. Years later, I found that same forbidden thrill again with Steve. He and his wife had just moved into our neighborhood. They were the youngest couple in our community, and we were the second youngest. It began innocently enough. Small talk at a neighborhood picnic, friendly exchanges when we visited the dealership where he worked. But then came the glances, the subtle flirtation, temptation. One day, while I was alone at the dealership, Steve pulled me into his office and confessed he had feelings for me. I should have walked away. I should have told Jim. But I didn't. Instead, I admitted I felt something too. That moment was the beginning of the end. Our affair began soon after. Always in secret, always during stolen hours when our spouses were at work and our children at school. It wasn't love. It wasn't even good. Not compared to what I had with Jim. But it was thrilling, reckless, dangerous. And I fell into it like a trap I didn't know I'd set for myself. I believed I could keep it separate, keep it hidden. Be a good wife and mother while indulging in this selfish escape. That delusion shattered the morning Marcia's mother walked in on us in bed. The screaming, the slapping, the humiliation. I remember every second in excruciating detail. I remember the way she clawed at my scalp and screamed that I had ruined her daughter's life. I remember the sting of her hand against my face and the numb horror of realizing my life was about to fall apart. I went home in shock and silence. For 2 hours I just stared at the walls. Eventually I called Jim to tell him I needed to talk. He didn't respond. Texted nothing. Then Marcia and her mother came to my house, banging on the windows and screaming. Thankfully our kids weren't home. Later that day Jim came home. I rushed to greet him, hoping he would look at me, speak to me, anything. But he didn't even step inside. He walked past me and headed straight to Steve and Marcia's house. He stayed there for nearly 3 hours. When he returned, I tried to embrace him, but he pushed me away. I apologized, begged, but he told me my apology didn't matter anymore, and that I needed to leave. He called my mother and told her everything. That night, I stayed with my parents, crying until I couldn't breathe. I called Jim and was stunned when he answered. He said nothing, just let me speak. I poured out my heart. I apologized. I begged him not to leave me. His response: silence. Eventually, he told me to stay away for a couple of weeks and that he didn't want to see me or the kids during that time. Every night we had brief phone calls. He never said much. I always ended them with, "I love you." He never replied. On the third night, he told me he wanted a divorce. I broke down again. He calmly said he didn't care if he lost everything. He just wanted peace. He even offered to give me everything we owned if I would just disappear. That gutted me. That's when I made a decision. If there was even a sliver of hope, I would fight for it. I consulted 4 attorneys until I found one who would help me draft a postnuptial agreement so one-sided that no man in his right mind would turn it down. It gave Jim everything, nearly all our marital assets, control over whether we stayed together, and the right to walk away at any time without penalty. He was shocked when I served him the agreement. For the first time, he looked at me with something other than disgust. He said he would accept, on one condition. I was to have no expectation of intimacy. No touching, no physical affection, no guarantee we'd ever be husband and wife again in the traditional sense. I agreed. We've now been in this second marriage for 17.5 months. I've kept every promise. Got a job. I contribute financially. I respect his boundaries. I have not broken a single rule. But he still won't let me touch him. He won't let me in. He's kind, respectful, and engaged with our boys. But I live in a kind of emotional purgatory. We share a roof, meals, bills, a family, but not a life. Not really. I know I caused this. I know trust takes time to rebuild, and some wounds may never heal. But I want to hear from anyone who has gone through something similar. Did your spouse ever come back to you emotionally? Is there a road back from total devastation? Or am I clinging to a dream that died 19 months ago? I'm still fighting. I just don't know if there's anything left to fight for. A few weeks ago, Kat opened up to me about some of the interns in her office, recent college grads in their early 20s, full of energy and stories about wild parties and spontaneous hookups. She told me how their uninhibited lifestyles fascinated her. The way they lived, chasing excitement, seizing every opportunity for pleasure, seemed to spark something in her. She admitted that their stories made her feel like she was missing out on something, like her life had become dull in comparison. It wasn't a confession, it was more like a subtle lament, a curiosity voiced aloud. I listened. I really did. And I tried to understand where she was coming from. We're all human. Temptation, especially when it's wrapped in the novelty and freedom of youth, can be hard to ignore. I acknowledged that. But I also made my stance clear. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of an open marriage. I told her that I valued what we had, our bond, our love, the quiet depth of our relationship. I had lived that life once too in my 20s. I'd chased fun, flirted with chaos, and experienced the highs and lows that came with it. But it all eventually left me feeling empty. When I met Kat, I found peace. Real peace. She became my safe place, my future. I shared those feelings with her, not to guilt her, but to be honest. I even told her that if she was truly serious about exploring an open marriage, we should have a deeper conversation. But she quickly denied it, saying it was just a passing thought and that she understood my perspective. I believed her. For a few days things were fine. Normal. But then everything started to shift. She became distant, cold. She brushed it off as work stress, and I didn't push her. But then came the sudden mood swings, tantrums over trivial matters, biting sarcasm, mocking me for being outdated. I tried to reason with her, but she said I was too rigid, stuck in the past, unwilling to evolve. When I asked if her frustration stemmed from my refusal to consider an open marriage, she just gave a quiet, almost reluctant nod. Meanwhile, her work hours spiraled out of control. At first, she had late nights maybe once a week. Then it became almost every other day. Sometimes she didn't come home until dawn. She said she was chasing a promotion, trying to prove her worth. And I wanted to believe her. I admired her ambition, but something didn't sit right. Then, last week, something inside me snapped. I got home early and decided to surprise her with her favorite dinner. Lasagna. I knew she'd be late, But I wanted us to have one of those rare, cozy nights. I texted her. She replied she'd be home after midnight. Disappointed but still hopeful, I waited. Around 11:30, I had this sudden urge to pick her up from work. I'd never done that before without plans, but something compelled me. Her office is a standalone building, easy to recognize. I waited outside for 30 to 45 minutes. It was nearing 12:30 a.m. and still no sign of Kat. I walked in to ask the receptionist, who looked confused when I mentioned her name. She told me Kat had already left. My heart dropped. I rushed home, hoping maybe I'd somehow missed her. But she wasn't there either. I didn't think she was cheating. Not then. I was worried, genuinely scared. I didn't have any of her co-workers' contacts. She'd only been at the company 6 months. I fell asleep on the couch, phone in hand. The next morning, I found her asleep in bed. I was relieved. I asked when she got home. She said around 3 a.m. because of a meeting with a client in an Asian time zone. But when I asked when she'd left the office, she casually said 2:30 a.m., which contradicted what the receptionist had told me. When I brought this up, she claimed she'd gone to the client's U.S. office in another part of the city and had been on Zoom calls there. I didn't know what to believe anymore. The real breaking point came 2 days ago. She was lying on the bed talking to her mother, who's been ill, and I picked up her phone to check on her mom's test results. She had left the screen unlocked. I wasn't snooping, not at first. But then I saw a notification. Looking forward to our fun ride today. My gut twisted. I took the phone into the bathroom, locked the door, and began reading through her chats. It was all there. She was having an affair. Multiple affairs, actually. Explicit messages, nude photos, meet-up plans with her co-workers, all laid bare in front of me. I quickly emailed the most damning photos to myself before she started banging on the door. I gave her back the phone without a word and locked myself inside again. I was shaking sick. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I checked where they were meeting. It was a hotel downtown, 5 p.m. I drove there early, got a table in the dim lobby, and waited. By 6 p.m. she hadn't shown. I thought maybe she'd sensed something. But then, at 7 she walked in. Something inside me broke. I confronted her at the reception desk, said something like, "Good luck with your fun ride," and stormed out. She tried to stop me to explain. I didn't hear a word. I crashed at my friend Lee's place, drunk and hollow. The next day he helped me pull myself together. I blocked Kat on every platform. I froze joint accounts, changed all my passwords, got STD tested, thankfully negative, and retained a lawyer. I'm living with Lee for now. He's helping me through the mess. Kat has been trying to reach out nonstop. Calling, texting, emailing, even contacting Lee, begging for a second chance. She claims the hookups meant nothing, that she just wanted to feel desired. She said it all started when interns began flirting with her. That she got addicted to the thrill, the attention. That she felt alive for the first time in years. She even admitted that she brought up the idea of an open marriage because she felt guilty and was looking for a way to normalize what she had already begun. But by the time she realized the interns were using her, for money, for sex, it was too late. She was already neck-deep in the lie. And I was already shattered. I don't know what comes next. Divorce is inevitable. Trust is gone. Love maybe too. I never imagined my marriage would unravel like this. Torn apart not by distance or money, but by the illusion of freedom and the need to feel wanted. For anyone reading this, cherish honesty. If something feels off, trust your instincts. And never ever underestimate the power of unresolved longing. It can burn everything to the ground.